The ocean at night is a strange thing. From the deck of the Ocean's Grace, all you see is black upon black. Sky stitched to sea, no horizon, no escape. The laughter of passengers drifts faintly across the salt air, clinking glasses, a jazz band playing in the grand atrium. The shuffle of cards at midnight poker tables. It feels safe, luxurious. But safety on the open water is an illusion. We open with a scream that no one should hear at sea. It cuts across the endless dark like a flare, high-pitched, primal, the kind of sound that makes even the engines rumble. Uneasy cut back. Earlier that night, a couple leans against the railing, staring at the blood-colored moon that hangs low and heavy, swollen above the endless tide. They joke about it, whisper superstitions, maybe even kiss beneath it. But as the man straightens, his hand goes stiff. A tremor runs through his fingers. His wine glass slips and shatters against the deck. The woman asks if he's all right. He mutters something about the heat, about not feeling well, and stumbles inside. The camera stays on the deck. The broken glass glitters, smeared with a drip of red, but it's not wine. Down in the narrow corridor of the lower cabins, he's already doubled over. Every mirror is polished brass, every light soft and golden, but his reflection stutters, his back arches, his skin prickling with sweat as his jaw clenches. Passengers pass by, oblivious, just another drunk stumbling toward his room. He doesn't make it. Inside the walls, the sound begins, bone-cracking, flesh-shifting. A muffled gasp becomes a low growl. Shoes split apart, fingernails tear free. The corridor lights flicker as if the ship itself senses what's being born inside it. We cut between luxury and horror. Champagne glasses raised in the ballroom. A violin string snapping in the orchestra. And down below, a hand slamming against the wall, now tipped with claws. The first howl rips free, muffled but deep, vibrating through steel and glass. A few passengers stop mid-dance. Air steward frowns, listening. But the music swells louder and the moment passes. For them, anyway, for us, the audience, the spell is broken. This ship is not alone on the sea tonight. Something is hunting. Not from the waters below, but from within its gilded halls. The camera pulls wide. The Ocean's Grace gliding across the infinite black, bathed in blood moonlight. One red eye in the sky staring down, and the whisper comes straight into the ear of the viewer, pulling them into the story's jaws. At sea there is no land to run to, no forest to vanish in, no village to warn when the howl begins on the water. The only way to survive is to outlast the night. The screen drops to black, lingering just a second too long. Then, a sound, wet bones snapping, a low growl, footsteps, heavy and inhuman, pacing across the deck above. The cold open ends, and the nightmare begins. If you felt the chill of that first howl, stay with us. Subscribe before the night takes you. Morning doesn't bring safety at sea. When the sun rose over the Ocean's Grace, gilding the waves in pink and gold, most passengers shook off their hangovers with little more than aspirin and a strong coffee. They didn't notice the scuffs on the walls of the lower deck corridors. They didn't question why the night steward never showed up for his shift change. They didn't see the red smear scrubbed too quickly from a cabin doorframe, but the ship noticed, and those who paid attention, they noticed too. A child whispers to her mother about hearing growls through the air vents. The mother hushes her, saying it was just the engines. A deckhand scrubs furiously at claw marks in the teak railing, muttering in Spanish about La Bestia. A pair of old men in the smoking lounge argue about the moon last night, one insisting it was brighter, closer than he'd ever seen. The ballroom chatter turns to rumor. Someone fell overboard. No, it was a fight in the crew quarters. The captain's keeping something quiet. People laugh, wave it off, sip their cocktails, but the laughter rings thin. And in the middle of it all, our camera drifts down the service halls again. The air is colder here, the lights buzz, dimmer than they should be. A trail of damp footprints leads nowhere. The scent of copper lingers, though no one names it. This is where the law creeps in. One old passenger, a retired professor, corners a group at the bar. He speaks of curses that cross oceans, of legends older than the cruise line itself. The sea, he says, tapping his glass, doesn't wash away. Curses, it carries them. Salt preserves as much as it destroys. He mentions stories from centuries back. Merchant ships where men went mad under red moons, sailors who tied down their own to masts, begging them not to transform when the tide rose. No one quite believes him, but no one leaves the bar either. The suspense tightens. We see shadows stretch long in narrow hallways. A woman swears she saw glowing eyes staring from her cabin mirror, eyes that weren't hers. Another guest finds their door scratched from the outside. 3 deep gouges, too wide apart for any hand. Crewmen mutter about locking the decks after dark. Then a sound, distant, echoing through the ship's belly. Not quite an engine noise, not quite human. A growl that vibrates through the rails. Everyone freezes for half a second, as if some primal instinct in their bones recognizes it. Then the ship's PA system chirps to life, blaring cheerful announcements. Poolside events, buffet hours, a karaoke contest that evening. The illusion of safety reasserts itself, but the cracks are widening and the moon is coming again. We end this section on an image. A steward pauses outside a cabin door. His hand trembles as he slides the master key into the lock. Inside, the curtains are drawn, the bed is shredded, mattress torn apart as if by claws, and on the wall, scrawled, in something darker than ink. It follows the blood. He stumbles back, mouth open, but says nothing. The ship sails on. Some of you know this legend already. Comment if you've heard whispers of curses that follow the sea. The sun slips into the ocean like a coin into a well, and with it goes every illusion of safety. By dinner hour, the ocean's grace glows like a lantern adrift in endless dark. The ballroom is alive with sequined dresses and tuxedos, the clink of crystal, the scrape of violins. A captain's toast rises, champagne bubbles fizzing, laughter swelling to the rafters, but in the service corridors below it begins. A steward pushing a cart stops suddenly, his nostrils flare. He smells it before he hears it, that sickly mix of sweat and iron. Then, a low growl rolling from behind a cabin door. He leans in. The door shudders once, twice. On the third it bursts outward. The man from last night is no longer a man. His spine bends grotesquely, vertebrae snapping like gunfire as his back arches. Fingers stretch, tear, and then explode into claws that gouge the wooden frame. His jaw unhinges, teeth lengthening in jagged clicks, spit flying as a howl surges up his throat. Fur bristles in patches, tearing through his shirt as his body convulses between forms. Too human to be beast, too beast to be human. The steward doesn't scream at first. He's frozen, mesmerized, forced to watch the alchemy of transformation. The soundscape is a nightmare symphony. Bones snapping, tendons popping, the wet tear of skin giving way to something raw and wild beneath. The creature snarls, a sound that rattles the silver trays on the cart. Before lunging, the steward's scream finally rips free. It's drowned instantly by chaos in the ballroom above. Guests pause mid-toast as the lights flicker. A chandelier rattles. Then from the service stairwell, the sound of something tearing through metal, heavy footsteps pounding upward. The music dies. The captain lowers his glass, and then the doors explode inward. The werewolf hurls itself into the grand hall. A streak of fur, blood, and glinting teeth. The crowd panics. Women shrieking, men shoving for the exits, chairs crashing, plates shattering. The beast lands on the buffet table, claws gouging into roast and crystal, eyes glowing amber with hunger, it snarls. Saliva flying and locks onto the nearest moving body. One slash and red arcs across the cream-white linens. Another guest is dragged down, screams rising as others stampede for the exit. The beast doesn't need to chase. The ship itself is a cage. Our camera stays with a single survivor. The young woman from the railing last night. She recognizes him, or what's left of him. His shredded shirt hangs in tatters, and his eyes, for a split second, look almost human. He knows her, a flicker of memory. Then it's gone. Drowned in hunger, he lunges. She scrambles backward beneath overturned chairs, clutching a silver dessert fork like it's Excalibur. The monster swipes, claws shrieking against the floor, barely missing. The panic swells around her. The chandeliers sway violently as if the whole ship recoils. The captain shouts orders, but they're swallowed by the screams. The beast leaps again, crashing onto the piano, strings snapping in a metallic scream. Then, from deep inside its chest, a howl erupts. Not of a wolf, not of a man, but of something caught between worlds. Something cursed to never be one or the other. The howl echoes through every corridor, down every pipe, into every cabin. On a ship surrounded by endless sea, there is nowhere for it to escape. The first night of the hunt has begun. If the snap. Half bone made you wince. Hit like and let the algorithm know you survived. The ballroom is a slaughterhouse. Crystal chandeliers sway as if the ship itself trembles, and the floor is slick with overturned wine and darker stains that soak the carpet. The orchestra has fled. The captain's voice is lost in the storm of screams. Somewhere in the chaos the beast has vanished, slipped into the ship's arteries like a shadow through veins, and that is somehow worse. Passengers scatter across the decks, frantic to hide. Some sprint for their cabins, doors slamming shut like dominoes falling in a line. Others charge for lifeboats, but the crew blocks them. Not at night. Not in open water, they shout, shoving panicked tourists back toward the interior. The realization settles over them all like cold seawater. There is no escape in the middle of the ocean. We cut to the service decks. Narrow, steel, fluorescent. Lights buzzing overhead. A group of survivors huddle, led by a trembling steward clutching a fire axe. The young woman from the railing clings to the wall, eyes darting at every sound. Somewhere distant, claws scrape against metal. A low growl reverberates through the pipes. The werewolf is hunting them, not running, not hiding, but driving them deeper into its maze. Every corridor feels like a trap. Every stairwell echoes with phantom footsteps. The ship has become a floating labyrinth of fear. One man bolts, panic too heavy to contain. He runs down a hall, pounding on cabin doors, begging for help. A shadow moves at the far end. He slows, breath ragged. The lights flicker, and when they return, the shadow is gone. Silence presses in, then it hits him. A blur of claws and teeth, slamming him into the bulkhead so hard his scream dies on impact. The group hears the sound but can't see, only the blood trickling under the cabin doors. They run, the camera rides with them. Breathless, handheld chaos. Lights flash red as the emergency systems kick in. Somewhere above, alarms sound. But they're swallowed by the pounding of claws on steel. They spill into the pool deck. Moonlight glitters off the water, calm and perfect, a cruel contrast to the horror unfolding. The werewolf bursts from the stairwell behind them, muscles slick, eyes burning. It launches across the deck, scattering deck chairs like paper. One survivor shoves the young woman toward the pool, yelling, "Hide!" The beast catches him instead, dragging him into the shadows. His scream rips through the night before cutting short. She ducks into the pool water, sinking beneath the surface. From under the glassy waves, we see the distorted silhouette of the beast pacing the edge, sniffing, claws flexing. Her lungs burn. Blood spreads faintly in the water. Not hers, but someone else's. She clamps her mouth shut as the beast leans close, snarling at the rippling surface. The ship is no longer a luxury cruise. It is a cage, a hunting ground, and the predator knows every corner. The chase is only beginning. Where would you run if glowing eyes stared through your window? Tell me below. I want to see who would survive. The ship's engines groan as if even the steel is afraid. Emergency lights wash the corridors in bruised red. Alarms droning a hollow warning no one can outrun. Survivors scatter into pockets, hiding where they can. Storage rooms, kitchens, the infirmary. But whispers travel faster than the beast itself, and in whispers truth takes root. The young woman from the railing, her name finally given as Claire, clutches a wet towel against her chest, still dripping from the pool. She huddles with others in the library, a place meant for quiet afternoons and dusty novels. The shelves tremble with every distant thud of claws on metal. Among them sits the professor from the bar, his hands shaking not from fear but from knowledge. His eyes shine in the dim light, a man who has waited years for someone to finally listen. "It's no accident," he rasps, voice rough from cheap whiskey and age. That thing didn't just happen. Curses like this don't care for borders. They follow blood, not land. He tells them of the sea wolves, a forgotten line of cursed sailors who once ferried across the Atlantic, carrying infection not through bites alone, but through family ties, debts of blood never repaid. He describes merchant logs, centuries old, recording how entire crews locked their mates in chains when the red moon rose, how passengers vanished mid-voyage, only to be found days later with throats torn. Their killers still wearing human skin by morning. The ocean preserves things, he says. Salt does not cleanse. It keeps. Every ship that ever carried one of them left a trail. You think the sea is empty? It's a graveyard of curses drifting. Waiting to be picked up again, Claire presses him. But why here? Why now? The professor hesitates. His gaze drifts to her trembling hand, the scratch on her arm, 3 shallow marks from where the beast lunged last night, grazing instead of killing. He doesn't say it outright, but the truth is clear in his silence. The curse chooses its vessel. It isn't just hunting them, it is spreading. Before panic can take root, another survivor, a crewman, bursts into the library, face pale, uniform torn. "It's in the kitchens," he gasps, tore through. 3 of us, but it didn't kill everyone. It's like it's testing, choosing. The word choosing chills the room, the lore deepens. This is no mindless beast, this is a bloodline curse, carried across oceans, bound to the cycle of the moon. It doesn't need to sink the ship. It only needs to sow infection, to leave the survivors changed, to spread its dominion to every port they touch. Claire feels the sting in her arm. She hides it, clutching her sleeve tighter, but her eyes betray the dawning horror. She isn't just prey. She might be next. The ship creaks as the beast prowls above, claws scratching across the deck like chalk on a coffin lid. Passengers pray, bargain, whisper, but the professor's words linger heavy as iron. This will not end when the night ends. It will not end when the ship docks. The curse is on board now, and it will travel wherever you do. The howl rises again, louder, closer, as if mocking them, and all the lights snap to black. Curses like this don't end. They echo, subscribe, and join the archive before the next howl. The ship lurches violently. Though the sea is calm, it isn't weather. It's panic. Crew scrambling, survivors locking doors, others throwing themselves at lifeboats despite warnings. The blood moon hangs fat and merciless over the open ocean, casting the decks in red, and then the predator steps into full view. The werewolf, taller now, fully claimed by the curse, emerges onto the upper promenade. Its fur gleams like wet iron, eyes burning gold, muzzle dripping from the carnage. Below, the crowd screams, surging like a tide toward the opposite stairwell. The beast doesn't chase immediately. It just stands there, watching, savoring, a hunter in no hurry, because where can prey go on an endless sea? Claire finds herself shoved forward in the chaos, pressed against the rail. Behind her, the ocean yawns, black, bottomless, eternal. In front of her, the beast lowers its head and growls, muscles rippling beneath the moon. The captain, desperate, fires a flare gun. The burning light explodes in the night sky, reflecting in the creature's eyes. For a second, it staggers back, snarling, blinded by the sudden burst. Passengers seize the chance to scatter, but the reprieve lasts only a breath. The beast slams a claw down, splintering the deck, shaking the entire ship with its fury. The chase ignites again. Claire and a handful of survivors sprint down the promenade, ducking into the glass-domed atrium. The chandeliers shake, glass shattering as the beast smashes through behind them. Tables scatter like toys, plants topple, blood streaks the marble floor. Every step of the werewolf echoes like cannon fire, closing the distance. They stumble into the kitchen, knives glinting, pans swinging from hooks. One survivor grabs a cleaver, another a roasting spit. The beast crashes through the swinging doors, stainless steel groaning as its claws rip down the counters. Pots clang like funeral bells as the survivors fight back in desperation. Steel clashes with claw, flesh tears, screams mix with snarls. The professor is dragged across the tiles, claws raking sparks. His last words, "It follows the blood," are cut short by the wet crunch of jaws. Claire lunges, stabbing with a carving knife. The blade sinks into the beast's shoulder, but it only enrages it. It backhands her across the room, smashing her into the cold lockers. She coughs blood, vision blurring. Her sleeve tears and revealing the scratch mark, red and burning beneath her skin. The beast pauses, sniffing, recognizing, and then it hesitates. For one heartbeat, its eyes flicker, human recognition beneath the monster's glow. Not prey, not stranger. Something else, a bond, a curse, a kinship. Claire seizes the moment. She grabs a silver platter, literal silver, ornamental but true, and slams it across the beast's face. It howls, reeling, crashing through a wall of glass. The survivors scatter again, running for the upper deck. The finale explodes on the pool deck once more. Under the moon, the werewolf rises from the wreckage, towering, unstoppable. The ship groans beneath its fury. Claire stumbles back, cornered. At the pool's edge, weaponless, drenched in moonlight, the beast leaps and she dives, dragging it with her into the water. Under the surface, everything is distorted chaos. Fur, Claws, blood billowing like ink. The monster thrashes, jaws snapping inches from her throat. She kicks, claws scraping her ribs, lungs burning. Just when it seems she'll drown, the werewolf convulses, the silver knife, the cleaver. The survivors above must have thrown it in. The blade protrudes from its ribs, glowing faintly in the moonlight refracted through the water. It howls, the sound muffled. Bubbles rushing upward, the water turns dark. The beast sinks. Claire claws her. Way to the surface, gasping, dragging herself onto the tiles. The pool behind her is still stained, reflecting the full blood moon above. The survivors gather, panting, bleeding, broken, but alive. For now, because when Claire looks at her arm, the scratches burn hotter. And in the pool's reflection, her eyes glow faintly amber. This isn't the last transformation. The next one is worse. Follow the howl to the story waiting on screen. Dawn breaks. It should bring relief, but the Ocean's Grace is a ghost ship now. Deck chairs overturned, carpets soaked dark, chandeliers swinging in silence. The survivors wander hollow-eyed, shoes sticky with dried blood, each step echoing. Too loud in the cavernous halls. The captain calls for order, voice hoarse and trembling. Crew tape off sections of the ship, piling furniture across broken doors. But order is a lie, just like safety had been. Everyone knows what happened can't be undone by sunlight. The body of the beast is gone. The pool where it sank gleams in the morning light, calm as glass, but no corpse remains, not even blood, just ripples, as though the sea had claimed its own again. Claire sits apart from the others, staring at her arm. The scratches burn faintly, pulsing with her heartbeat. She hides them beneath her sleeve, but the professor's words echo in her head. It follows the blood. She remembers the hesitation in the beast's eyes. Recognition, inheritance in E. The mess hall survivors whisper. Some speak of abandoning ship, taking lifeboats before night falls again. Others cling to denial. It's over. It drowned. We killed it. Their voices shake as they say it. No one truly believes. And then a sound cuts through the chatter. Distant, faint. Not the groan of engines, not the slap of waves, a howl carried faint across the water as if from somewhere below the surface. The survivors freeze. Some drop their cups. One woman sobs into her hands. Claire doesn't move. She only stares at her reflection in the mess hall window. Her face pale, lips trembling, but her eyes, for an instant they gleam gold. She blinks and they're human again. But the seed of horror has been planted. The curse didn't die. It shifted. The ship sails on. Destination meaningless now. Wherever it docks, whatever shore greets it. The infection will walk with them. A floating plague of teeth and fur, a pack waiting to be born. The camera pulls wide, the Ocean's Grace cutting across the empty ocean, bathed in the new day's light. But beneath the water, shadows stir. Something moves faster than the current, something that survived. The howl returns stronger, reverberating from both above and below. Black screen, and then a whisper, close to the ear, low and intimate. The pack grows stronger with every whisper. Share this tale if you dare, and join us before the curse finds you alone. The pack grows stronger with every whisper. Share this tale if you dare, and join us before the curse finds you alone. And for those who hunger for more, step deeper into the shadows with our ultimate Werewolf Horror playlist, linked in the description below. In the world of horror, the scariest things happen when you least expect them, and trust me, you don't want to be left in the dark. Welcome to the darkness.